Outro vídeo para ti hoy. Este es Aaron con ANETcomputers.com. Received a question on one of my videos. I think it was pertaining to installing a second SATA drive, hard drive onto your computer, into your computer. And this individual asks, Donald, which SATA connection should optical drive be connected to? Should it be number 4 in reference to multiple SATA ports on your motherboard? This is a photograph I took with my Android of an actual computer, and I'm going to show you. So I'll kind of use this, and then I will transition once in a while, but it's a paradox. It's a yes and no answer, really. Which connection? Well, they specified it's an optical drive, so it doesn't matter. Technically, it's not a yes or no question, but it's like a paradox. Yes, it matters. No, it does not matter. Since they have an optical drive, it does not matter what SATA connector on the motherboard they hook up their optical drive. If it was a hard drive, yes, it would matter. Now, that's the answer to the question, but this will be a longer video because I'm going to discuss SATA connections. I linked to my blog post at ANETcomputers.com talking about SATA connector on your motherboard, and then which one should you use. It depends on, if it's an optical drive, it doesn't matter. Blu-ray, it does not matter. Hard drive, it depends on what kind of hard drive, the speed. So that's where I'm going to spend the remainder of my video. It's going to be a longer video, but at least I answered it right away within the first minute or 30 seconds. I gave the answer. They have an optical drive. It doesn't matter what SATA connector you connect to, and I'll show it to you. So quickly, I've got examples. Now these are older. Now back in the day when you used IDE drive connectors, it mattered. Nowadays it doesn't, again, unless it's a hard drive. And really it depends on the speed of the hard drive. These are old IDE which connected to PATA, parallel ATA attachment, parallel AT attachment or something like that. Now I might have one. This is a floppy. They're a little bit skinnier, but back in the day you had to mess around with IDE drives, and you had to mess around. I've got a hard drive. You had to mess around with IDE drives, and now I might have one of these, I might not. Now this is a one that you can connect to your motherboard. It's short, but generally they came with another connector. You see there's only 2 connectors. Most times they came with a third connection, and they were longer, and then you could hook up multiple devices, an optical or a hard drive, and they used terminology like master and slave. And then there's also cable selection. There was cable selection, there was master, there was slave, and then I think there was a 4th one. I'm pretty sure. But there was master and slave. I'm talking about the jumpers. And then there was also CS for cable select. Well, you don't have to worry about that crap anymore. So, but I keep every once in a while I get a customer that might have old hard drive, and believe it or not, they need their data recovered. Other than that, I don't have much use for these, but it might be good just to have some of these, a couple sets. You just never know. Or as a museum item. Now these were like, what were they, 40 pin hard drive. Sometimes they were labeled, as you can see. This is old school technology, man. Back even when I first got my first 486DX50 computer and I upgraded it to a Pentium motherboard. See how it says hard drive 1 and then system board. They even marked them, and you know what I'm saying? These are good cables actually. They very rarely failed. And then here's a floppy. Anyways, alright. So nowadays we've got SATA hard drives and SATA DVD optical drives. You see the connectors? Now this has jumpers, but you don't use the jumpers the same. It even written on the hard drive. It says master slave jumper not required for SATA. Jumpered pins 3 and 4 enable PUIS, power up and standby. I've never used power up and standby, but if you need to use power up and standby, then you would use those jumpers. Factory jumper settings, serial data, SATA power. But I've never ever ran across a SATA hard drive with a jumper. I have some. It's in my. I might be able to pull one out really quick, and I'll show you what they look like. If you're not aware of what they look like, let's see if I can do it really quick. I might not. I think I used my last one because they are IDE. I don't even know if I have one to show you. These are some Molex cables. I don't think I even have one. Do I even have an IDE hard drive around? I have a floppy. I have a laptop one, but I think I used it. What did I use it on? I think I had one jumper. Anyways. I just don't think I have one. I used it for... Oh, you know what? Did you hear that? Did you hear that? I heard that! Did you hear that? That woman makes constant noise after hours. Now, let's see. Okay, so this is... As you can see, this is an optical drive. It's a SATA optical drive. It's got the SATA connectors. But you notice there's no jumper. That's because you don't have to worry about jumpers on SATA except for the hard drives with that power on standby mode. So the question was, well, let's see, what SATA connector do I need to connect my optical drive? I looked up Blu-ray specifications, and the fastest Blu-ray, I think, currently, most likely, is X16, which is about 576 megabits per second. It's in my blog post. I can look. I'm pretty sure it's 576. Yes, 576 megabits. There are 8 bits in a byte. SATA 1, SATA 2, SATA 3 technologies, which are separate. They're similar to USB. You had USB 1.0 and I think even 1.1, then 2.0 and 3.0. They're the exact same connectors. The cables are mostly exactly the same. Only the newer ones they're usually blue for 3. But all it deals with is the speed of USB. But that's another video digression. SATA is similar. SATA 1 runs at 1.5 gigabits per second. SATA 2 is 3 gigabits per second. SATA 3 is 6 megabits per second. I'm not sure if there is SATA 4. I didn't really look that up. I knew the SATA 1, 2, and 3. There could be already SATA 4 already designed or in the works. I'm not sure. So since this is not a Blu-ray, but let's say it was, these DVDs I think run less than maybe 30 megabits per second, whatever they are. Blu-rays run quite a bit faster, but they have to be X16, so you don't have to worry, because SATA 1, here I can even show you on my blog post, SATA 1 runs at 1.5 gigabits per second. Blu-rays that are X16 only run at 576 megabits per second, so it's about 1/3, so you don't have to worry. So you don't have to, well, let's see. And another thing I want to go over, which I'll go into that, is some motherboards have different SATA connectors. You have SATA, basically, to keep it simple, you have SATA 1, which is 1.5 gigabits per second, SATA 2, 3 gigabits per second, SATA 3, 6 6 gigabits per second to keep it simple. Some motherboards mix and match. Some motherboards it's just SATA 1. Some motherboards have SATA 1 and 2. Some motherboards have SATA 2 and 3. I'm not sure if any motherboards have all three. I have noticed some motherboards I think have 6 SATA connectors. Some have an eSATA connector, which is for external hard drives, which is another video digression, but it's possible that you would come across that. Laptops, a lot of laptops have an eSATA connector. So, and then some, I think motherboards, if they have multiple SATA connectors, then they have different colors, and they're color coded. So I have, here is an optical drive. Oops, I should probably close my email so I don't get alerts, so you don't hear the alert noises. So here's a SATA optical drive and a SATA hard drive. This is 500 gigabits per second. Well, no, it's not 500 gigabits per second. It's 500 gigabytes, the size. I'm gonna look it up. I didn't look it up. It has 16 megabytes cache. It's a typical 500 gigabyte Western Digital SATA hard drive. And I'll look it up real quick and we'll see what the speed is, or the read-write speed. So I have a computer. This is a power spec, actually. Here's the front plate. It's a power spec. It's actually a quad-core motherboard that no longer works because I recycle computers, and there is a demand for used computers, and I warranty my computers for 30 days. And you know how many computers I've sold? I don't even remember. I've only had one used computer returned to me because I make sure that I basically do a burn-in test, which is just fix any problems, load the operating system, leave them running for a day, couple days, and then sell them. And I warranty them for 30 days, even though they're used. And I've only had one computer come back, and that customer bought another used computer from me that I sold cheaper because it died after about a year. But I only charged her, well, I charged her my hourly rate, which is $80, or my flat rate for most issues. Most major issues is $80. So I've only had one used computer ever come back to me. The rest were 30-day warranty. Never heard a complaint. So this power spec, these are popular. I think Micro Center sell power spec. I'm not sure where else these are sold. Now here's the computer itself. It's not very big, so it's not that heavy for me to hold it. Now as you can see, it's got, and that's the one that's in the photo. At the beginning of this video, I took my Android and I took that photo of the motherboard. So you should be able to see the four. It's down there in the corner. Whoops. Well, I fucked that up. So let me transition away from the camera and I will be right back. I will be right back. So I have to reset the camera up. Oh, yep, I gotta adjust the camera now. Give me a few seconds. I fucking hate the way it's set up, but it's kind of my temporary studio. Let's see if I can move it down a little bit. Oh, come on. Come on. I don't want to waste time. I don't want to have to restart this video. God damn it. Okay, that's good enough for now. That's good enough for now. Alright, well, I guess I can't get too close, but I think I don't want to discuss how I have that camera. This is like my temporary studio, or I don't know. It's my office. So let's see. I don't want to get too close, but as you can see, there's the connectors. So you've got, and these are the ones with SATA 1. SATA 1, their cables were a little bit different. They didn't have these latches. These you have to press in. When you plug them in, they snap in. Now if you try to pull it out, it's almost impossible. With the first generation of SATA, I learned that the cables didn't have these little releases, and the cables would just come loose. Now I think with SATA 2 they started making cables with latches, and now they're almost impossible to pull out. You'd probably break the motherboard, or I don't know. So this is a typical SATA cable. You notice the little latches, the metal clips. See? Maybe if I get out of the way of the... So you just press in on the latch to pull it out. Hold the latch and pull it out. Let's see if I can get close enough without fucking up this time. So let's get... Okay, I want to hold it so that you can see down. You see the connectors? See them? You see how there's 4 of them? Well, they're black. However, I've learned that when there is different SATA connectors, SATA 1, 2, 3, sometimes they're color coded. So I don't know if it's absolutist. You might still want to look up your motherboard specifications. But generally, supposedly, whenever the connectors, the color of the connectors on the motherboard are the same, it's the same speed. They start changing the colors when you've got different SATA type connectors, SATA 2, 3, 1, 2. And then I think the most SATA connectors I've ever seen is 6. I'm not sure if there could be some motherboards with 8, but 2. I've seen motherboards with just 2. And then a lot of times I see them with 4. Now they're almost always marked. This one is marked better. Let me show you the photo, because my photo, you can see it a lot easier than in my photo. You see here, you see how you can see them, that there's 1, it's marked 1, 2, 3, and 4. And even as I'm looking at it right now, they're really easy. They did a better job on this motherboard. Sometimes they have white, the back is white, and then the number is just green, or they just, the number is the same color as actually the circuit board, the motherboard. All they did is somehow they sprayed white around it, and it really stands out. Sometimes they start at 0. I've noticed some, it's not just 1, 2, 3, 4, it's 0, 1, 2, 3. And then I've noticed that it does not matter if it's just an optical drive. It also does not matter if all of the connectors are the same type. If it's SATA 1, it's going to be 1.5 gigabits per second. SATA 2, 3 gigabits per second. SATA 3, 6 gigabits per second. So it's not going to matter. And also, you don't have to worry anymore, because the BIOS automatically just detects devices. So you don't have to master and slave. You know, back in the day, you really weren't supposed to master the optical drive and then slave the hard drive because of the speed issues. You always wanted to master the hard drive and then slave the optical drive because of speed issues. With SATA, you don't have to worry about that. There are times now with SSD drives, solid, and it's in my blog post, if you have a solid state hard drive, then it makes a difference, because it's only if you have different types of SATA connectors that run at different speeds. Then you want to look up your motherboard and try to find out what speeds the SATA connectors run at, because that can be an issue. If you buy a solid state drive that runs at 6 gigabits per second, which they make, but you only have 3 gigabits per second SATA connectors, I think it'll still work, but it's going to run at 3 gigabits per second, so it's not going to take full advantage of that speed. And then I don't know how backwards compatible solid state drives are. I'd have to study that further. If you get a 6 gigabits per second solid state drive and connect it to a SATA 1 generation connector on your motherboard, is it going to downgrade and run at 1.5 gigabits per second, but maybe it will, but you're not taking advantage of the full speed. That's the whole point, right? Isn't that the whole point of isn't that the whole point of solid state drives? They're smaller, they're allegedly more reliable, and they're faster. So, but it's possible that you could still connect it, and you just wouldn't take advantage of the speed. You know, it wouldn't run at the maximum speed. Now, so instead of fucking with this one and then also, you know, accidentally, I'm not perfect, and accidentally getting too close and tipping my camera, is I have another motherboard. That's technically a quad core motherboard, but it does not work. Now I have a dual core motherboard that I've had for a while that I probably need. I might be able to put it into that case and salvage it, but I'd still have to buy the processor, because most likely I think this is an AMD motherboard and this is an Intel. Yep, it is. And so I cannot take the heatsink and processor and transfer it. It's Intel and the sockets are different. But you know what I'm saying? You see how the motherboard, see? You might be able to see, probably not, but I cannot do that. But what I could possibly do is these are both ATX motherboards, so I might be able to take out that motherboard, and then I just need to buy a processor for this. I might have one. I don't know if I do. I might not. And then get a heatsink for it. And then I'll just have a spare, you know, dual core computer that I can load Linux on or whatever I want to. I could try to sell it, but I probably won't get that much money off it, because I tried to sell those power specs before. Now this is a brand new motherboard, so you know what, because I might sell this on eBay instead, I'm not going to even open the packet. I'm going to leave it. But you can still see it, so I'm going to show you that. I want to show you the IDE, the PATA, parallel ATA, and the new SATA connectors. Now this one only has 2 SATA connectors. You see how it only has 2 right there, where my finger is? It's got a black and a white one. See? There's the white one, there's the black one. Well, it's possible that that is because one runs at a different speed than the other. Why else would one be white and one would be black? You know, like the Freemasons and their checkerboard. That's a symbology of Freemasonry, is black and white. But the Freemasons are lunatics. Okay, now this one, are they marked? They're not really marked very well. Let me see. They're marked, but really terribly. It's got, now it's got the slot, it's got on the motherboard, it has, you could solder in SATA 3 and SATA 4 connectors if you know how to solder. I'm not sure what speed those would be, but it's got SATA 1 and SATA 2, but even those aren't marked very well. Also, it has the older IDE connectors. See the blue? See the blue one right there? That's IDE. That's IDE. And then you see the black one right there? That's IDE. And so the blue one is the IDE serial, well, not serial, parallel ATA, or also known as IDE. You connect IDE devices via the parallel PATA. They were called PATA, but most technicians just said, "Oh, you mean IDE?" Yes. Well, IDE is really the integrated digital It's in my blog post. Most technicians don't use acronyms. I don't like acronyms, but a lot of technicians, they don't even know what the acronyms stand for. But IDE is so old that integrated drive electronics, there's another acronym for it possibly, but let's not get into that. So the blue one, would be for this cable, and then the black one would be for this one, because this is a floppy drive. So, and this motherboard really isn't that old, but generally IDE, I have another computer that has one IDE connector. I actually have an optical drive that's IDE. So, but generally it's been phased out. I don't even know if new computers, probably new computers brand new, do not have PATA or IDE connectors. But I just wanted to show you. And then the power. And so on this, what we can do is, I wanted to look up 2 items, and then I think I'm going to run. Now, I already answered the question in the first 30 seconds or a minute, which it does not matter when it comes to optical, because we know that Blu-ray is X16 and it only runs at 576 megabits per second. SATA, first generation of SATA, ran at 1.5 gigabits per second, so there's fucking no way in hell you're going to even need to worry about that kind of a bandwidth. However, if you have a hard drive, a SATA hard drive, and especially a solid state drive, then it will matter. It might matter what connector you connect that device on the motherboard. And I've got a clue here. We can look up this motherboard. One has a white connector, the other one is black. Now, why is that? This is an ATA 133 serial ATA. It's an ATX motherboard. It'll probably fit in that case, and I can salvage it. So let's see. I've got so much crap here now. And I can... Okay, so let's look up the hard drive, because I don't really know off the top of my head what speed this hard drive reads and writes at. But we can quickly look it up on the internet. This is WD40 Aaron 5000 AAKS. So we can see what speed this runs at. It's right here, Newegg. I don't just take my data from one website. I tried to take it from multiple sources, but as you can see, this one says 3 gigabits per second. Amazon, if you look at Amazon, 7200 RPM, 6 gigabits per second on Amazon. So I would say I prefer going directly to Western Digital for my or the source, in this case Western Digital, to get data. 7200 RPM, revolutions per minute. Capacity is 80 gigabyte to 1 terabyte. This is a 500 gigabyte hard drive. Here's the interfaces. SATA 6 gigabits per second and 3 gigabits per second. PATA, which is the older technology, 100 megabits. Actually, since the B is capital, that's 100 megabytes per second. But look at how much slower it is. I think you can get an adapter. I think you can get a SATA cable to PATA adapter. I'm assuming, because how else could you connect it? I've never actually used that cable, but looking at the specs, they tell you that it'll run at 100 megabytes per second PATA, which is this type of a cable. I think, what is it, 40 pins? Let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Yeah, I think there's around 40 pins, something like that. But it does support either 3 gigabits per second or 6 gigabits per second. Now, that's great. I don't need, I just need to make sure I have one of these types of cables. I have two with that computer that, you know, has a bad motherboard. And then you just connect it. I have to connect it on the right end. Connect it. It even clips. You see how I'm pulling? Look. You see? You have to press in and then pull out. So I've got everything, but the thing is that I don't know what speed my motherboard connectors are. So now we can go on to Google and finish my video. So this is a pretty decent hard drive. 500 gigabytes, 16 megabyte cache. It'll run up to 6 gigabits per second because we looked up the specs. Now we just have to see if that motherboard right there supports it, or what speed are those connectors. So we're gonna Google search the motherboard model number, and you also want to do this with solid state drives. You want to understand and know what speeds they run at before you go out and buy one. That's what I would recommend. The first thing I ever look for when I start upgrading is I look up the motherboard specifications, because you know, these are old PCI slots. This is PCI Express, but there's different types of PCI Expresses. When it comes to installing PCI Express video cards, it's got an AGP slot, but there's different types of AGP. They run at different speeds. Not every AGP video card is the same, and so you have to become aware of this. And the same thing with SATA connectors now, because they don't all run at the same speed. Same thing with solid state drives. They don't all run at the same speed. So we're going to look up this motherboard. I've looked it up before. I should be able to find it. I prefer going directly to the OEM. Like that hard drive was a Western Digital, but sometimes with older hard drive and older technology you might not be able to do that. But I always try. If I do have to find the specifications for hardware from third party, I try to make sure I get 2, 3, 4 different sources, and I try to match that, because I don't want to waste time and money fucking ordering, you know, hardware that I order it and then, oh, it's not compatible, or it doesn't run the speed I wanted, or you know what I'm saying. MCP61M. Oh, you got to see my satellite dish. 61 PM. It's a project. I'm going to convert that satellite dish into a Wi-Fi device. You can do it. You can take a regular DirecTV or Dish Network satellite, or even the older K-bands, and you can convert them and hook them up to a Wi-Fi card on a computer. Now the easiest way is USB stick, but that's a video digression. That's why I have that satellite dish. I haven't gotten around to that project. I've done it before. I know it works. Here we go. This is technically HT2000. Now that says HP. This is another thing that you will run across. Sometimes you look up, especially with motherboards, you'll find out that a model of a motherboard, the motherboard doesn't say it's an HP motherboard. It just says, that's because some of the motherboard manufacturers have contracts with the computer manufacturers, and they will, what they will do is they will sell the motherboard retail directly from them, or through Newegg or wherever, or they'll also supply these motherboards to the computer manufacturers that build computers, and then that's the motherboard that they use when they sell the computer as HP. But we're going to try to find the original equipment manufacturer, because that's what I prefer. If not, we can look up the exact model, meaning revision. Sometimes you have to look up the revision because sometimes they have different revisions. So I like to remain as accurate as possible, because believe it or not, if you have a motherboard with a different revision, it can make a difference. I don't know if I can show you, if you can see that. Can you see the revision number? You might be able to. A lot of motherboards have different revisions numbers, and that can make the difference between what type of components and what type, chips, ports, connectors. It can make a difference. So it looks like revision 1B, we might try Amazon. It looks like Amazon and Newegg. Let's try Newegg and see what their specs are, and if they tell you the SATA connectors. Here are specifications. Come on. Wow, not much. Notice how it says generic motherboard. Okay, let's see. Another thing we could try. How about Amazon? Another one. It's got the same. And another way you can. Here, I am not even. Okay, sorry about that. Let's go back and I'll show you this one in Newegg. Now you can sometimes you have to actually visually inspect it. You actually have to visually inspect the motherboard or whatever it is hardware wise that you want to order compared to what's on the internet. I've done that before. It takes a little bit longer, but I will actually match it up physically. And most times I don't fuck up and order, the wrong items, because I've done this for many years. But sometimes with a lack of information, you have to actually match it up. Okay, let's see what color is the circuit board. Motherboards come in different colors. The circuit board. Okay, where is the video connector? Okay, does it have 2 RAM slots? Here it is. Look. Here is the 2 SATA connectors. One's white and one's black, and they're in the same order. And so this looks like it's the same physical motherboard that I'm holding in my hand. The problem is there's not that much information. Look. It's a generic motherboard. There's like literally nothing as far as specifications. So now we're going to try Amazon. Let's see. There they are. There's the black and white SATA connectors near probably the video graph, the GPU, I think, probably. I think that's the GPU heatsink, I think. Right here, the silver part. And then there's the IDE, there's the power, there's the floppy drive connector, and USB 2.0. So it looks like it's probably and look at on the screen it says MCP61PM-HM revision 1.0B. It looks like it's the same motherboard. Now I'm trying to find out what speed the SATA connectors are. Here's what I want. You notice how the PCI Express 16 times, X times, and then 2 PCI? You need to know this when you start ordering parts and when you start building computers yourself. Micro ATX. It's an ATX, it's micro. So is the other quad-core motherboard that's in there. They're the exact same size. I can tell by just looking at it. Memory. Motherboard. It's HP compact. Memory, video, audio, LAN. I/O. 1 VGA, 1 RJ45, 2 USB 2.0. It doesn't tell us what the SATA runs at. The SATA connectors. So this could be a difficult one. Now generally when it comes to SATA hard drives, I've noticed as long as the motherboard has a SATA connector, they just work. I've never really had that many issues. If I see that the motherboard has a SATA connector and I've got a customer with a bad hard drive, what I do is I try to sell them. Generally I don't sell new hard drives that often, but I will give them a 3-month warranty on a refurbished hard drive or even used hard drives. It depends on what the customer wants. Believe it or not, customers have bought used hard drives from me. Now, the ones that are refurbished, I warranty for 3 months. So usually I just connect this up and I don't worry about the speeds. But I would say with solid state drives, you might want to look into it further, because I need to study solid state drives further. Are they backwards compatible? Do they downgrade themselves? Will they, you know what I'm saying? If this hard drive, when I looked it up, it can either run at 100 megabytes per second PATA or you know, the old school IDE. It can run at 3 gigabits per second SATA. It can run at 6 gigabits per second SATA. Notice how it did not stipulate if it could run at 1.5 gigabits per second SATA. It might not, because this could be newer technology. But I know I don't need to worry about it, most likely because I've never really had problems. So it will most likely run. It depends on what the motherboard will support. And that's what I'm trying to figure out. And I would say with solid state drives, that might be more important. And they're more expensive. Solid state drives are a lot more expensive. So if you go out and spend $400 on a solid state drive, and then you find out, wow, the motherboard doesn't support it. It has to downgrade the speed to only 1.5 gigabits per second, or maybe it won't even, maybe you bought such a brand spanking new solid state drive with an older motherboard and the motherboard might not even support it. You just never know. But I would need to study solid state drives more. Okay, so what we can do is we can try another website. So we looked it up. How about HP? Because it's very possible. I bought this off the internet for a customer, and then what happened? Let me think. Something happened where they didn't need the motherboard, or I ordered. This might have been one. I'm not perfect. This might have been one of the few times I actually ordered the wrong part. Especially with older technology. If it's old, I would say if it's older than 3-5 years, especially if it's 10 years old. I don't know why you never know. Some customers are strange. They bring you a computer that's 10 years old, but they like the computer and that's all they need, and they don't want to spend $200-300 on a newer computer, but they're willing to have you order a motherboard. Sometimes you can get older motherboards for like $25 off of Amazon. It just depends on. This might have been one of the times that I ordered the wrong motherboard, or what happened was it wasn't the motherboard issue. It might have been the power supply or something else, and I figured it out. And then I wasted time and money, but whatever. I tried to keep those at a minimum. Okay. If that happens, what you can do is you can quickly sell it on eBay or Amazon as soon as you fuck up. Okay. Because the longer you hold older technology, the less valuable it could be, and the less likely that you can use it. You know what I'm saying? That's just how technology is. So here's the motherboard. Again, sometimes you have to look physically. It looks just off my vision here. It looks like it's probably the same motherboard. Also, you can look at, now this revision is different. You notice how in the photo, you notice how it says it has a MCP61PM-HM revision 1.0A. This motherboard is revision 1.0B. There could be all kinds of reasons why the revision is different. Maybe it's got a different BIOS. Maybe some of the connectors are different. Now, you know what? I looked at the photo. This isn't the same motherboard. You know why? Because look at the color-coded connectors. You've got one that's black, one that's white, one that's blue, one that's yellow. So this isn't the same motherboard. So that's not good. So, but what we could still do is try to find some specifications. How about I/O ports? How about it's not going to be under form factor, not much there. Front side bus is important. You can get cheap. You can get like $200-300 brand new computers, and if it's got a front side bus, that's all you need. But then you won't have all the bells and whistles. But whatever. If you want speed, Although back in the day, although I think with newer computers with multi-cores, that's not as significant. Back in the day, even with like dual cores, you wanted to look at the front side bus, but allegedly that's not as important anymore. Okay, let's move on. Yeah, your memory is not going to be there. It's not going to be video network. It's not going to be the expansion slots. It should be, what, I/O ports? Maybe. It's not under the I/O ports. How about internal connectors? Here we go. Maybe they'll list it. SATA. One PATA connector, which is IDE, which is older school. It's got 4 SATA connectors. But if you notice, that's all it doesn't say anything else. Oh, 4 SATA connectors. Well, but they're color coded, which allegedly, if they're color coded, that means they might run at a different speed. So we may not, in this video, sometimes I have to go out on eBay. In this video, I may not be able to, find out. I may not be able to find out what speed those SATA connectors run at. Now, with regards to SATA hard drives, I generally don't worry about that because they just work. Although with solid state drives, that might be a problem. Optical drives, it's not a problem. I already answered that at the very beginning of this video. I already answered the question. Let's see. Memory. Not much. This, yep. So, okay. Solid state drives, the newer ones run at 6 gigabits per second and 3 gigabits per second. How about any other one? This was like a generic, kind of like a generic motherboard. It's not an Asus. It's not a Gigabit. It's not MicroStar. It says made in China. This is just a very generic motherboard. But I would say, me personally, I wouldn't even worry about it when it comes to a SATA hard drive. I won't worry about it. I won't need to worry about the optical drive. However, if I were to order a solid state drive, I would need to look into that. But probably I won't be able to find, most likely I won't be able to find the exact speed that those 2 solid state, SATA serial AT attachment connectors run at. I just don't know. What we can do is quickly just go over solid state drives. What speed do solid state drives? Okay, let's see. Solid state drives, solid state drive speed versus 7200 RPM. I think that's revolutions per minute, I think that's what that stands for. Okay. What we can do, you know what we could also do, which could be quicker? Solid state drive. And what we're going to do is we're going to try to find, sometimes Wikipedia, I don't really like Wikipedia, but sometimes it's pretty accurate. You can double check. So we can go to Wikipedia and we can see what solid state drives and their speeds. Let's see. Do they have a little chart? Well, we could type in speed. 654 megabytes per second. Oh wow. How about 3? 3, there we go. I just need to learn how to fucking type. It says right here, this enabled the creation of ultra-fast solid-state drives with 250 megabytes per second effective rewrite speeds with the SATA 3 gigabits per second interface in 2009. So this doesn't really tell you, because I know the solid-state drives are sold in different speeds. I know some will run at 3 gigabits per second, some will run at 6 gigabits per second. But like I said before, if your motherboard does not support the SATA connector, the SATA technology does not support 6 gigabits per second, and you go out and buy a brand new solid state drive that supports 6 gigabits per second, you just wasted money, because it will not run at 6 gigabits per second. It will down. I'm thinking that these drives, I just don't know if 100% if they are backwards compatible or if they just downgrade themselves. Like these SATA drives will whatever they support. If the motherboard does not support 6 gigabits per second, but it supports 3 gigabits per second, the hard drive will run at that. At 7,200 RPMs. That's how much data, the maximum possible data is, 3 gigabits per second. And then it runs at 7,200 RPM. I think that's the speed. These are different than the solid state drives. These have platters, and they just spin inside. Sometimes the circuit boards go bad. I could make videos about what you can possibly do. Sometimes, here, since I'm already talking about it, sometimes these circuit boards right here, you see the green circuit board? It's just a circuit board, and it's got the power and then the SATA power and then the SATA cable connector. Sometimes they go bad. You replace the board, you get an exact same model one. Sometimes they're hard to get, and then you have to do something with the firmware. I think what you do is you have to get the exact same circuit board or something close. I would say I haven't, probably almost the exact same circuit board, and then you have to make sure that it has the same firmware. If it does not have the same firmware, then I think you have to flash the firmware, because sometimes it's just the circuit boards that go bad. Sometimes it's inside the hard drive. I don't do that kind of work. I don't do the cleaning room work, because supposedly you cannot allow dust to get inside the hard drive where the platters are at. And most times that's very expensive. Well, let's see. How about solid state drives speed? They're much quicker, solid state drives. As you can see here, this was way back in 2009. Micron Technology. Remember Micron? They used to be one of the bigger here. Micron in the early 90s were a huge. Did I buy a Micron? Let me think. I think my first computer was a Micron. Let me think. No, it was either Micron. Wow, that's so long ago. I think it either was a Micron or another. It wasn't a Gateway. I think I did order a Micron. Let me think. I think I actually did, and it came with the monitor, or it was another computer company similar to Micron. Back in the day, Micron and Gateway, it was before Dell. They were the big computer manufacturers, and then IBM holds the patent for the personal computer, but they sold their personal computer business to Lenovo, which is a Chinese company. But technically, IBM had the patents on the first ever personal computer. But back, Apple, and then there was Micron, there was Gateway. That was before Dell, and before, I would say Toshiba and HP. HP was Compaq, and then actually Digital Equipment Corporation they made computers, and then I think they bought Compaq, which turned into HP Compaq, which is now known as HP, and a lot of people don't like Hewlett-Packard computers. They're very budget. It depends on model, but yeah, I would say, yeah, it just depends on the model. So back in 2009, you had solid state drives that used the 6 gigabits per second SATA interface. Now again, we're only talking about SATA because solid state drives come in different. I don't want to delve into that. It's the M3 M. What is it? No, not M2. It's very. Oh, I don't want to talk about that because there's different types of solid state drives. I'm only talking about SATA solid state drives. They have the same connections as this drive. I'm not talking about the M2s and all that other crap. I'm talking about the SATA connectors. You can buy solid state drives. They're much smaller, much smaller. They're just basically USB technology. And they have the SATA connectors. That's what I'm talking about. So, I don't know if I'm going to be able to, you know. This one says SATA 3.0 runs at 6 gigabits per second. We already went over that. I was not able to find out what the motherboard runs, the two SATA connectors on the motherboard run at. I guess I need to look into that further and find out what the colors are for. It could be that white means a specific speed, black means a specific speed, and then as you noticed on that other, remember that other motherboard that had, that I looked up the model number and it had, I think it had yellow. Here, can we go back? I know it had black and white and yellow and blue, I think. Yellow and blue makes green, Aaron. Back to elementary school, Aaron, because you're not that brilliant. Yellow and blue makes green or whatever. Where was that? Do I need to go forward? Yeah, it wasn't CNET. Let me think, which one was it? I think it was this one. Yes, it was. I remember now. See, this one had yellow or orange or whatever you want to call it. That's kind of an orangish yellow. Yeah, that's like an orangish yellow, whatever. And then you had blue, and then you had white, and then you had black. It could be that, but there's only, from my understanding, there's only 3 SATA types right now. SATA 1.5 gigabits per second. SATA 2, 3 gigabits per second. SATA 3, 6 gigabits per second. So, or this is just bullshit to help you. Okay, I connected my first hard drive on the black connector, my second hard drive with the white connector, my optical drive on the third connector that's blue, and the orange yellow connector is my burner. Or yeah, I you know what I'm saying? But yes, I did look it up, and supposedly the color codes help you distinguish what speed and what type of SATA connector it is. So, okay, different solid state drive speeds, and then comparison. And then I don't know, just when it comes to solid state drives, that's another wrench because they've got different types. They've got the M2s and the what are they, EVRMs or whatever the fuck they are. Some of them look like a memory stick, and they'll fit in a laptop. You know, and then here, let me get a SSD drive. Now this is a solid. No, it's not solid state. But the solid state SATA drives look quite similar, but they're not. They're lighter, but they're close to the same size, but they're not the same. They're lighter. You can tell that. Well, and obviously they're gonna have the label. This is a Toshiba. It's SATA though. See the SATA connectors. So this is a laptop SATA. I'm not sure what type, 1, 2, or 3, couldn't tell you. But it runs at 7,200 RPMs, and it's got the SATA connectors. So, and it's a laptop. Now the solid state drives also have this. They're about the same size. They're much lighter, and they've got this same SATA connectors. However, there are some solid state hard drives that look like a memory stick, and some of the Macs have them. They're some of them on a Mac. Some of the memory and some of the hard drives are actually soldered on to the motherboard, and unless you know how to solder, they're just good luck trying to upgrade. So you know what I'm saying? So here's a solid state drive, and I don't see. It goes on and on and on. Let's see. How about this? Isn't probably a good. How about this chart? Maybe Tom's Hardware, and then I need to run. Here's a solid state drive with SATA connectors. So you can install these on a desktop computer. Yeah. You know why? Because another great thing about SATA is that the connectors are the same size on a laptop hard drive and a desktop. So you can even line them up. I'm going to line them up, and they are the exact same size. See? Can you see the SATA connectors? They're the exact same size. So what you can do is you can install a laptop SATA hard drive into a desktop computer. Now you need to worry about, you don't want this to fall. Let's say you move the computer and then this falls. That's not good. But there's ways you might even be able to get mounting kits. There's ways as a computer technician that you can freestyle it and you can figure out a way to mount it. But you can do it. Now obviously you cannot take a desktop SATA hard drive and install it on a laptop. You know, that's impossible, but but the connections are the same. And this is great for data recovery, because you can take a SATA hard drive out of a laptop and throw it in, not literally, you don't want to throw shit, but you know, well, it depends on if you don't care, you know, about the hard drive anymore. You can throw it if you want. I don't care. But you can connect it into a desktop and perform data recovery. Well, back in the day, it was the same thing with IDE. You could take an IDE drive, and then, but that was different. Because IDE was different. Let me think. Yeah, it was different. You could not take out an IDE laptop hard drive and throw it into a desktop. Because in a laptop, these are male connectors. In the laptop, you have female connectors, and they just slide right in. I'm not being derogatory. I'm not being, you know, perverted. But then you can also take a desktop cable, SATA cable, and you have to line it up, and then bam, see? It connects. And I can even, I've got a nut. That's a nice paperweight, Aaron. What are you gonna do, Aaron? Were you a cowboy? Are you lassoing laptop hard drives, Aaron? Aaron, goddamn it, Aaron, stop it. Aaron, that's a nice little, what do they call it? The big joke with old hard drives and shit is a coaster. You can convert your bad SATA hard drives, and you try to replace this. And the same thing with the laptop SATA. Sometimes the circuit boards, you see the circuit board? That's all this is. It's just a circuit board on top of, and then sometimes the circuit boards go bad. The circuit board is all the way here. And then it's got the connectors. Sometimes the connectors break. But if the connectors break, you can just replace the circuit board with the connectors, and then you've got a working hard drive. These are the same things. You can get the exact same circuit board, replace it, but you have to have the same firmware. Otherwise, it's inside, and I don't do cleaning room work, and that gets very expensive. Or you could just create your own coaster, or it's a laptop on a leash, a laptop hard drive, and no, stop that! No, you can't urinate. Don't urinate on my condenser mic. No, stop it. No! Oh, God. Oh, yuck. Oh, you're gross. Laptop, hard drive. Oh, Alright, enough clowning. Okay. Alright, so here's a solid state drive with the same SATA connectors. As you can see, I told you they're almost the exact same size. What is it, 2.5 inches? But they're much lighter because all they have inside is... I've taken one apart before. They fail. Some brands... Here, oh shit, I need to transition. Some brands are worse than others. Some brands have a higher failure rate, but generally, allegedly, solid state drives are more reliable. But they do fail. And I've taken one apart. They're just basically, you take it apart, there's one circuit board, and then it's got an adapter, and then it's got the USB little flash drive. It's just... Alright, moving on. Okay, well, you know what? Oh, here's where the problem is. You've got NVMe. You've got PCIe 3. The NVMe's are the ones that look like a memory stick. They do not have SATA connectors. So when it comes to solid state drives, you have to do your due diligence, because you do not want to order the ones that look like a memory stick, because it ain't. And I'm not. Now, there are some conversion kits. There are some adapters that you can convert an NVMe type solid state drive into a SSD drive, but you have to know what you're doing, and I don't think all laptops will support that. You know what I'm saying? It just depends on. Because there are laptops that only have NVMe connectors on the motherboard. So it just gets all, here's an M2. Here's the PCIe 3.0, and you see how this one looks like a memory stick? Oops. Come on. I need to run. Come on. See? I told you. That's a solid state drive. Only it fucking looks like it looks like a memory stick. But some of these have different connectors. Some of them are different pins. And if you get the wrong, some of them, it just gets all hokey. If you get the wrong one, the gap, you see the gap in between the pins? If you get the wrong one, the gap isn't wide enough and it won't fit. I mean, I don't know why the fuck they did that with the NVMe's, but that's what whoever designed these. So, you know what? I need to run. So I need to look into solid state drives further. Maybe I'll make a separate video about solid state drives, and I will be able to tell you that, look, solid state drives are backwards compatible. All they do is run at a slower speed. They will run at the speed that your motherboard supports. How about that? But I answered the question at the beginning of this video. I already went over that. They asked me which SATA connector should I connect my optical drive. Should I connect it to number 4? It does not matter, because even Blu-rays that run at X16 only run at the top speed is, I think, 676 megabits per second. The first generation of SATA ran at 1.5 gigabits per second. So when it comes to optical drives, you don't need to worry about that. When it comes to SATA hard drives, I've never worried about that because they just work. That could be because they're backwards compatible and they just downgrade. But I would say with solid state drives, that could be a different, and definitely because but I'm talking only about SATA solid state drives. They might also be where you don't need to worry about them. Whatever the motherboard runs at, the drive will run at that. I know this was a long-winded video, but I think it's productive because it's about SATA. And this is my new format, I think. Instead of just answering all my questions that get backlogged and do a live stream and then have convert it into a podcast and call it Reality PC, I'm just going to try to answer each question I get, and then I can also write blog posts, and I can also search engine optimize them with keywords like this, and then I can get more traffic, and then I can get I have ads on my blog and I have ads on my YouTube channel, and with search engine optimization you can increase your cost per click, and I can get more traffic and make more money that way, and I can also make more money by using keywords that are worth more, and then that way I can make more YouTube videos. Adios!